Hi everyone. So in this particular video, we are going to talk about how to manage your Fortigate firewall from the CLI. Okay, because what happens is whenever you are doing a firefight or whenever you're trying to troubleshoot a situation or scenario, switching between the GUI and the CLI becomes tedious, and sometimes even you lose focus. So what you do is, if you're able to handle the Fortigate firewall from the CLI, you do not have to switch. Okay, and you can very quickly get all the information that is required from the CLI rather than switching on to the GUI and looking the same information over there. Okay, so today what we are going to do is we are going to understand that when it comes to figuring out problems or situations and how to make sure you have the right connectivity in place, how to test the connectivity, plus if you want to fetch some information from the CLI, how would you do that? Now, this will be a basic level, configuration or basic level, practice, because once you have the grasp of these four things, then you will be easily moving on to the intermediate level and the expert level, which we are going to talk about later. Okay, but yeah, we'll start off with the basics of how to fetch the right information quickly within 60 seconds. Okay, so yes, of course, this video will be a little longer, but once you're able to practice that in your lab, let me tell you, within a week, you will be able to see that within 60 seconds, whenever a user or a customer is coming up with a problem or an issue, you can quickly log into your firewall, get all the information that is required, and then start troubleshooting. Okay, so you'll see efficiency in your work automatically, slowly and gradually. You will be seeing that. So now moving ahead to how would you do that and how to get the information from the CLI. Let's look into that. See, the first thing is the show command. Show command gives you a lot of information and perspective about what is configured and how it is configured on the firewall. Okay, so the first thing is show, and then there's get. So you can use these two commands whichever is required in a situation or a scenario. Now, what situation and scenario you have, let's talk about that today. Okay, so I'll go into the lab that we have. Okay, so in this particular lab, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole lab. So this is one of the lab which I use to train students on NEC4 or becoming an SME on the FortiGate firewall. So let's take up the FortiGate firewall over here. I'll take up the CLI. Okay, I just powered it on, and I'll go ahead and enter the credentials, and yeah, got it. So now I'm in, and this particular firewall's host name is FortiGate North. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is the first thing is about show command, right? Now, let's say, for example, a customer comes up and he says that, I'm not able to reach the internet, or I'm not able to access some specific resources. Okay. The first thing that you have to understand is that if he says that he's not able to access internet or he's not able to access some specific resources, does he has connectivity to the firewall? If in case he does not have access to the firewall, then of course he won't be able to access the internet or maybe other resources. So how would he check that? See, every firewall has a LAN interface, right? You can get the information about what interface is used as a LAN from either checking the interfaces, or you can understand it from the topology also. Let's say, for example, I don't have anything at all, no topology, no network designs, nothing at all. One of the ways of understanding this is also by going through a command which is called as a show system interface. Okay, now if I just go ahead and execute this one, so if I do this, now it will just list out all the interfaces which I have and what IP addresses which is configured onto it, and whatever accessibility that I have. Okay, what I mean is that, for example, port 1 is configured, it has a DHCP. Allow access basically tells me that it has a ping, HTTPS, SSH, and HTTP. Port 2 not being used, no IP address configured. Then I have port 3, which is configured with an IP address of 172.16.32.1. This tells me that it's a /24. This over here tells me that okay, I have ping allowed on that particular interface. So if somebody pings this particular IP address, I or the firewall would be able to reply back with an ICMP reply. So we have ping, HTTPS, and SSH. Okay. Now it does say that the alias or the other like a naming convention which is given to port 3 is inside. Okay. Just by this, I can get an idea, all right, that this is maybe my LAN segment, interface which is inside facing, which can only be accessible from the network or the LAN segments or internal to the company. Okay. If I have port 4, I don't have anything, not even on 5. SSL route is for the VPN interfaces, which we do not have as of now. And then Fortilink is a different particular interface, which is mostly used more like you can say as a switch. So you can add a couple of interfaces inside Fortilink, and then you can use that as a switch. So you can have, let's say, 7, 8, 9 interfaces added to Fortilink, and that will act as a layer 2 switch. You can do a lot of things, but then that will be a different video altogether. So let's talk about what we have in the picture. Now, if you look over here, we have in port 1 an alias of outside also. So now I get an idea that, all right, this port 1 could be my ISP, could be my WAN, and is facing outside for any kind of traffic which needs to go either on the internet or some traffic which is coming from the internet to the inside the organization. So that's how it is. Now, there are other ways of identifying that as well, but to keep it simple enough, let's take this aliases as the identification of outside and inside as the interfaces for LAN and WAN. Okay. Now, now you have seen one thing over here, that when I do a show system interface, I was able to, get all the information. I mean, I was able to get basically a list of all the interfaces, right? And what IP are they configured with and what kind of access are they configured with. There's one more thing which you can use, which is called as a get system interface. Now, the difference, let me tell you over here quickly. The difference between the show system interface and a get system interface is show command talks about uh, the command syntax, talks about the information which was changed. Okay. And get system interface or the get command talks about, or basically it will display you the result. It will display you the output of whatever has been configured. Okay. So for example, if I take up, let's take a port 1. Okay. So edit port 1. So see, show commands will tell you the syntax, command syntax, right? So it is telling me this command syntax that if I have to configure or make any changes in the command or of the port 1, this is how I get into port 1. Set vdom, set mode, set allow access. Now see, when you execute all these commands, there has to be some output, right? There has to be some result off to it. So what are those results? Now if I'm interested into the result of the configuration or the command that I have been executed, get over here is the command that you use. So if I do a get system interface and I do a enter over here, so see over here now I'm getting the information but in a very different format. The reason is that now the information that I am seeing is the result or the output of whatever is executed over here. Whatever command is executed over here, I'm getting the output over here. So the show command or the show system interface will tell me the command syntax and what is configured. Get system interface or the get command will give me the output of whatever command has been executed on that particular port. So the command we know that which was executed on port 1 was DHCP. So what was the result of DHCP? I should be able to get an IP address, right? Either I should be getting an IP address or I should not be. So if I'm getting an IP address, I would be able to see it over here. If I'm not getting an IP address, then it will be something like that, 0.0.0.0. Okay. Now see, port, port 2 mode is static. So I haven't made any changes to it. Hence, it is all 0, which is a result, which is the output. Okay. And if I was not having a DHCP in my environment, I would have got a 0 over here also. Okay, point is it is just showing you the result or the output of whatever has been executed. So the status is up, my interface is up and running. Okay, the physically it's up, there is no, I mean as of now there's no traffic in and out going on. Okay, and other information about the source check is enabled or not. Source check is, this is for asymmetric routing. Okay, or you can say reverse path forwarding, RPF. Okay, so you can see the same information is available for port 2, port 3, 4, 5 on the other interfaces as well. Now let's say for example, this is a VM, so I have just 5 ports. What if you have a hardware which has 16 or 32 interfaces? Now what will happen in that case? Okay, so what you do is, if in case you want to look at a very specific configuration of the interface, then there are certain things that you can do. If you want to let's say if you want to just look at the command syntaxes and what has been configured for, let's say, port 1. So I would go ahead and say show system interface and I say port 1. So it will just list the command syntax and whatever has been configured on port 1. Okay, now DHCP is configured, but what was the output of it? I got an IP, but it won't show me the output. Why? Because as I said, show command does not give you the output, get command does. So if I go over here, let's say get system interface, I do a grep. So grep is a it's a Linux command which talks about, or which what do you call it, strips off all the irrelevant information and only will show you the information which you have mentioned. Okay, so grep and I say port 1. Okay, sorry, I missed out something. The grep, as in the word grep, has to be mentioned over here. So grep port 1, and there you go. I, rather than getting all the 5 interfaces and the 40 link, I'm just getting the information about port 1. Okay, I can see of course that I have an IP address. Now again, why is that? Because I'm using the get command over here. I hope this is clear. Give me in a comment down below if you're able to understand the difference between the show command and the get command. And if in case you have any questions over there, do let me know. I'll be able to help you out with that as well. So this is the difference. Show system interface port 1 and get system interface grep port 1. Do you see the difference? It's very clear. Yeah. So how will I or how would this information would be helpful in my troubleshooting? See, let's say for example, if you have a DHCP configured somewhere and you want to know what exactly IP address you have over here, so show system command won't tell you that. You need to use the grep command and you need to use the get, grep and get both. Okay, so this will instantly will tell you that what is the DHCP information that has been given to you. Okay, so point is you will be able to relate that. Okay, if there is a DHCP, let me quickly use the get command. Okay, if you have just static IP address information, then that's fine. You can use the show system interface. You can just say, let's say I want to see port 3, show system interface, and I say port 3, enter, and there you go. I was able to get the information about the port 3 and what IP address had been configured. Now again, this is showing over here because this is a static information. Okay, I have manually configured this IP address. That is why. Okay, if it is DHCP, it won't show up over here. It has to be used by using the get system interface. Okay, I hope this is clear. Do ping me if in case in the comment that I'll be able to understand whether or what is your question on that. Okay, now the next thing, show and get. We understood the difference. Let's look into the routing section. Now see, we have two ways of understanding the routing information as well. One is displaying the routing and one is fetch the routing. There's a very vast difference between displaying the route and fetching the route. Let me explain that. So whenever we are talking about display, we know what command to use. It's always show, right? Now let's understand, I do not know anything about my routing information over here. Let's say I have no information what routes has been configured or how it has been configured, whether those are correct or not. Not sure. So how would I use that? So I'll go ahead and say show. Okay, and what do I need to show? So I want to see something which is a routing specific, because it's a routing information, right? So the command has to do something with the route. So I'll say show router, because anything which has to do route, anything which has to do with the routing is mainly taken care by the router. Okay, which is where router command or the syntax is being used. Okay, now what am I looking at? See, I'm not looking at OSPF or BGP. I want to look at whether any static routes are being configured on this or not. Okay, so if I want to look into the static routes, I would have to mention that I have to tell my Fortigate firewall that okay, I just want to use the static routes. Okay, I want to just see static routes. So I'll say show router static, and that's it. If you get do this, hit enter, it will tell you, it will list you all the routing information or all the static route information which is configured on your Fortigate firewall. Now I have just one. Maybe in your environment there could be 5, 10, 50, or even 100, or even more than that. I've seen uh, somewhere around 400 routes. It was a mess, to be very honest. I mean, I had to do a like a firewall hardening onto for that particular customer, and then I was able to lower it down to somewhere around 300, somewhere around 275 to 300 routes, because his environment was really huge. But point is that if you do show router static, it will list out all the routing information. It will come like a very huge list. So there are various ways of understanding, or there are various ways to deal with these kind of situations. If you do not want to list, if you do not want to check all the routes, that's fine. You can just say show router static. Okay. If you do a question mark over here, it will give you the sequence number of all the route which is being configured. So it might say 1, 2, 5, 7, 10, 15, 50, 500, whatever it is. Okay. Point is, it will list out all the sequences. All right. And that, if you know, you can go ahead and list out that particular one. So if I say show router static one, it will just show me the first routing information, and that's it. Okay. Again, show command does the same thing regardless of whether you're using on the interface, whether you're using on the route, the routing information. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and do a different thing over here. I said that I'll be using displaying the routing information, and then there's something which is called as fetching the routing information. Okay. Now fetching the routing information basically comes with get command. So you do a get command and you say get router, of course, because we are using we need routing information, right? So I need router, but I need some information onto it. So I'll say info. Okay, what kind of information am I looking at? I need to know the routing table over here. So I'll say routing table, and I'll say details. Details as in I need specific details about what exactly your routing table looks like, or how does your forwarding information base looks like, FIB. Hit enter, and over here you will be able to, I think anybody who's coming from a Cisco background would know this. Yeah, routing table, pretty simple. You have a static route over here, and it's going with 16.9.156 on port 1, and then I have two connected routes. See, 172.16.32.0 and 192.168.69.0 on port 1 and port 3. Now I know port 3 is being used as my inside or my LAN segments, and port 1 is used as outside, more like a WAN segment. Okay, so I know that this range is for the ISP or the internet, and this range is for the LAN, right? This is what I mean when I say fetching the information. Now there's one more thing which you can do. Let's say, for example, even if you do this get router info, you have a huge list, you know, a lot of static routes in place, let's say 50 or 70 static routes. Now you're still not able to understand, okay, out of these 70 routes, if I want to forward the traffic to 4.2.2 or 1.1.1, which is a Google DNS server, which one will it take? Let's say there is no Google. Let's say you do not have a default route. Let's say you have 50 routes in place and you're not really sure of which route it will take, or you do not want to go through those 50 routes, to be honest, and to save time, how to get that information quickly. So one of the ways of doing this is that you execute the same command, get router info, routing table details, but this time hit space, and say, I want to know what routing information do I have for 1.1.1.1, or any IP. You can put any IP over here. So if I do a enter, it basically tells me that okay, I have a routing entry, and that's with the default route known via static. That basically means there's no dynamic information. You have a static information in place which has a distance of 5, metric of 0, and goes out with this particular IP address, 156. So this basically is my gateway, and that is via port 1. All right, now I can use any IP over here, any IP for that matter. So if I just say, let me take up a LAN IP address. So 172 dot, sorry, dot 16.32.5, for example. All right, so now it says that okay, um, I know this particular route, or I know this particular IP address, and that is reachable via a route which is called as this, which is a connected route known via connected. There you go. Yeah, not static, not dynamic, connected. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is the one. So connected, distance is 0, of course, because it's a connected route, so distance becomes 0, metric 0, directly connected, port 3. Right, so even if you have 50 routes, 100 routes, whatever it is, if you execute this command, this is one of the best commands which I use whenever I'm troubleshooting. I use this command. It becomes so easy, and I'm able to understand what route is being taken. So if it is taking a wrong route, if it is not configured correctly, I'll be able to know within few seconds. I'll be able to know whether the destination which I'm trying to reach, whether it has the right interface or not. And if it does not have the right interface, I'll quickly understand that okay, I have to make changes in the routing. It has nothing to do with the firewall policy. Okay, because see, when it comes to a firewall, we always understand this, that before a policy gets applied, routing has to be there. Correct. So if the routing is wrong, I mean, how can I expect the firewall policy to work correctly? So the first thing is correct your routing. Yeah. So this command will always help you with that. Now, again, there are so many other iterations to the get routing information, get router info routing table. If you do a question mark over here, you'll see you have RIP, OSPF, BGP, ISIS, static, connected, database. I think we can take this for a different session, because this will become a long, very long session. But yeah, we can discuss this about that. If in case you want that, do comment down on the video. So this is what I wanted to show you, that with the routing information command, get router info command, you can really find a lot of information really quick, really quick, rather than finding or going through the from the GUI. It becomes difficult. From the CLI, it is easier. Okay, so displaying the information and fetching the information, that's what we are talking about. Next is the firewall. See, once we are able to figure out that okay, routing is in place and I have the right information with me also, the next thing which comes up is the firewall policies, that which policy am I getting applied to, and is it right or not. Okay, so the first thing is policy show, as in I want to know that which policy is being used. Okay, so again, show command. So over here, show command is better as compared to get command. I'll tell you why. Because when you are trying to figure out whether the right policy is configured or not, you have to look into the command syntax, or you will have to look into the configuration, how exactly it is configured. That's what we are trying to figure out over here as well. So which is why you use show command. So you say show, and what am I looking at? I'm looking at a firewall, specific thing which is on the firewall, not a router thing, but a firewall thing. Okay, we all know routing is a very router specific job, right? But a policy is more like a firewall job. Okay, router has ACLs, not policies, right? So show firewall, and I'll say policy. So if I do this and I hit enter just like that, so if you have one policy, it will show you. If you have 10 policy, it will show you. If you have 1,000 policies, still it will show you. Okay, again, we will use the same analogy which we used for the interfaces, same analogy which we used for the routing information, that if I want to look into a specific policy, I'll go ahead and say show firewall policy and do a question mark. If I do a question mark, again, it will show the list of all the firewall policy ID that I have. Okay, I can use the one which I'm interested on, and then I say one. So it will show up only that. Now I know that I just have one, so it will only show me that. But point is, even if I had 5, 10, or 15, if I use the specific ID, I would be able to see only that. Now um, let's say for example, I want to change this. I am looking at the configuration and I see, hey, you know what? This is a default policy. The source interface is any, destination interface is any. All wow, that's a disaster. I do not want to have such kind of policy. All everything. I do not really want this. So what would I do? I have to change this, right? How will I do that? So see, show policy or show firewall policy in itself is showing me also the command syntaxes to make any changes when it is required, right? So I can go ahead and just copy this also if I want to. If I go ahead and say config firewall policy, edit one, so either I can type this up, config firewall policy, okay, edit one, or I can just do a copy paste also, that will also work. That's your choice. I mean, that's something which is very, comes, whatever comes to you automatically, okay. So I know I'm now into the firewall policy. Now what I'll do is, I'll do a show command once more, okay. It will show me the exact same thing, okay. Now I'll show you the get command also, but a little later. Now see, let's say for example, I am not looking for source address all. I do not want to have everything. I want to restrict this particular policy to, let's say, just one single IP, okay. How will I do that? Set source, not interface, source address, okay. You do a space bar, and then what you can do is, if you do a question mark over here, um I'll probably not suggest you to do this. I'll tell you why. Because if you do a question mark over here, if you have 1,000 address objects, it will start to list out all those 1,000 address objects, so it will be a problem, okay. So if I do it, I do not have much, so I'm able to do this. But point is, look over here, I have an IT PC and there is an address, and then I have a user PC and there is an address, okay. And then we have all, and there's so other IP addresses as well, okay. So let's say, for example, I want to restrict this to just ITPC, for example. So if I say I and I do a tab, why did I do a tab? Is because I know that there is no other address objects which starts from I. So it will automatically it will populate the ITPC. Okay. If there was, let's say, a little bit more address object with the same I, then it would have shown me those possibilities also. And then I would have to make it more unique. It's exactly the same like in Cisco, Linux, exactly the same thing. Okay. So I know I have used the source address ITPC, and then they hit enter, and that's it. Now do show command once more. There you go. Now source address is being changed to ITPC. Now, let me tell you one thing. There's the difference between any other firewall and a FortiGate is that you do not have to push the configuration. It is real time. So as soon as you make the change, it's done. Now, if I do an end command over here, end is basically um, like save the configuration and come out. That's what end is. Like in Cisco, you have Control Z WR, right? Control Z basically, make brings you out into the global configuration mode, and then you can do a write command to save it, right? Over here, end command is very much similar. It will save the configuration, and you will be coming out to your, the main command line. Okay, we do not have user privilege mode or global privilege mode over here. This is just, we do not have any naming conventions to it. Anyway, my point is, if you enter end over here, it will save the configuration and it will be coming out. So if I do this, there you go. So see, I am outside into the main command line base, but this configuration is saved. So if I do a show firewall policy and I do a one, so I'm just looking at the first policy. There you go. See, it's an ITPC. If I scroll up a little bit, I knew that before making any changes, the source address was all right. Now, let's say, for example, now I know what ITPC is, so I made that change. What if I did not know about what this ITPC is? Let's say I do not have any information about it. What will I do? So there's one more way of handling this. You say show firewall address, because ITPC end of the day, it's an address object, right? So if it is an address object, we have to check that, because I do not know what IP is configured on the ITPC. Okay, so I do this, I do a tab, it will automatically populate it up, and then I hit enter. So it will tell me that, okay, the subnet or the IP which is configured over here is this one. So ITPC is configured with 172.16.32.10. How will I verify this? So in the topology, if you look over here, this ITPC, there you go. I have a .10 IP address of the range of 172.16.32.0. Yeah. So this is, I'm identifying the information and verifying it on the go. Identifying the information, verifying it as well. Okay. So now let's understand from a different perspective. So I knew that ITPC is having an IP address of 32.10. Okay. Now I'll show you one thing which I wanted to show you previously, which was executing the get command inside the policy. Let me show you that. So you go into config firewall policy, edit the first policy, and if I do a show command, it will show me what is being configured, command syntaxes, right? I'll show you the magic over here. If you execute get, okay, it will give you a lot of information. Okay, as I said, get shows you the output, the result of it. There you go. Look at that. So now you have a lot of information to look over here. The policy ID is one, status, of course, enable. The name is default because I haven't given any. UUID is the unique identification. Now this is more for the firewall's internal job, for the kernel to handle the firewall policies, not for us. And we cannot make any changes. This is automatically. Okay. Source interface, any, destination interface, any, the source address, ITPC, destination address, and the other information about source address 6 is like IPv6. Okay. Then ZTNA, that's zero trust. And internet service databases is disabled. Do I have a dynamic shaping in place? No, we do not. Do I have a SSL profile? Yes, we do. Do I have auto ASIC offload? Auto ASIC is the hardware chips like network processor, content processor. Do I have that or not? Those things. Then you have groups. Do I have any groups? Nope. Do I have any users? Nope. Any diff serve? So any layer 4 TCP header information that I want to make any changes to? No. Do I have to make any changes in the TCP MSS values on the sender, on the receiver? Nope. Source address negate, it's like a reverse of source address. It's like if I do a source address negate ITPC, then everybody apart from ITPC would be able to log in. Okay, so that's like the reverse of the source address. So do you know, have you seen the amount of information that you get just by using this get command inside that particular policy? Because what happens is, a lot of times when you're troubleshooting or configuration, doing a configuration, you have to check whether any MSS values were changed or not. So if they were, you can get this information over here. All right, so again, get is used in those cases as well. Show show policy 90% fixes the problem for you, but 10%, somewhere or the other, if in case you want to. Okay. All right, so if I do an end, it will, again, as I said, it will save the configuration and I'll be out. Okay. If I want to, whatever changes, like let's say for example, I was playing around, okay, and I do not want to make any changes. So you can do an abort. Abort basically will remove all the changes that you have done and it will come out. But see, when I say remove all the configuration, what I mean is, if I had made any changes, as of now, I haven't made any changes. After the end or after the saving of the configuration, I came in, I showed you the get command only. I hadn't made any changes to it, right? So if I do an abort, it won't have any effect, to be honest. Yeah. Just wanted to show you what is an abort and what is an end. Okay. This is the difference of using the get command in the policy itself to understand a lot more details on the firewall policy as compared to just the show policy. As I said, 80 to 90% this will take care of your issues, but if in case not, get is a better option to go for. Okay, so we saw the address objects as well, show firewall addresses. Yeah, we were able to understand and see what addresses we have and what IP addresses are being used inside that particular address object. Okay, Next is the ISP. So once we have gone and done all the routing information for the basics, the routing information for the static routes, and the firewall policies in place, the next is the ISP. End of the day, if you need to have internet connection, you need to have internet connectivity with your ISP. Yeah. How will I check that? How will I confirm that? Just from the command line. Yeah. So the first thing is gateway. Second is DNS. Let's see. So let's say, for example, I just know that my port one is being used for my my WAN side or my internet side. Okay, so if I do a show system interface port one, I have just this information, DHCP, nothing more. So a better command is get system interface. Yeah, grep port one. This will tell me what IP address do I have. Now, where does it show me my default gateway? It doesn't show me. See, it's a DHCP, correct? I must be having a default gateway also. Where is that? I don't see it. If you have noticed, when I was showing you the get router info routing table command, it was showing up over there. Let me show you again. So get router info routing table details. Let's say 1.1.1.1. Okay, so I know that this is through my default gateway, and there you go. That's my default gateway. That's the gateway that I got from my DHCP. Okay, now see, um, so if I want to ensure that I have the connectivity to my ISP, what is the first thing which we do? Always ping, right? Execute ping 192.168.69.156. Just that's enough, and I'm able to ping, so I know that okay, my connectivity is there. Now, one thing which I would like to tell you also, always check the TTLs and the time values over here. If it is 2 ms, great. Anything which is less than 10 ms is okay, acceptable. Anything which is above 10 ms to 30 ms, um, some routing configuration needs to be checked. Some of the network topology needs to be checked. But if it is more than 50 ms, definitely there is some performance or latency issues or some kind of a layer 3 loop. Okay, because time basically tells me that how much time does it took for that particular traffic to really get to the firewall's gateway and then come back. Now again, this is a VM environment, so 2.7 is okay, but in a hardware, I mean actual real environment, should be 1 ms only. Actually, it has to be 1 ms only. 2 3 ms is like questionable, but it's still acceptable. Okay, questions are, yes, of course, please do check your routing information, your connectivity, your cables, your interfaces, mss values and all that stuff, but it's still acceptable. Okay, so ping is fine, I'm able to ping my gateway. Now what is the next thing? See, I'm if you look closely, I'm pinging my layer 3 IP address, right? So layer 3 IP address basically means that okay, my layer 3 connectivity is okay, no problems over there. But we have layer 4, 5, 6, and 7 also, right? What if there is a problem with the DNS resolution? How will I check that? Yeah, so which is why I mentioned the DNS over here. Now the other way of using this is using the execute ping, but this time I'll say chalo, let's do this www.google.com. Now what will happen is over here that it will resolve the IP address, okay, and will show me that what IP address am I getting resolved for google.com. If this is happening, then I know that okay, my DNS resolution is happening. Okay, one thing more, again check the time values for performance and latency issues. Check this also, because this really makes you understand how good or bad your network is actually. Okay, again in lab environment this is fine, acceptable, but in a organization this has to be within 30 ms. Okay, now so I know that okay, my ping is also working, my layer 3 connectivity is also there. So this will basically make sure that my ISP connectivity, my DNS resolution is happening. So internet connectivity is working fine for me at least. Okay. If there is no firewall policy issues, I would be able to access, or the users would be able to access the internet. Okay. How will I check that again? No problem. Let's go ahead. use the user PC2. I'll just say and ping 1.1.1.1, and okay, I see a timeout. So I know something broke somewhere, right? And I don't know where. Do you remember the first video which we talked about, where I was trying to troubleshoot the situation? Yeah. So I know you know the answer, but let me show you to make sure that you understand this. Okay, diagnose sniffer packet any. I'll do a filter for the ICMP. Or you know what? Let's do this. I'll take host 1.1.1.1 because this is the destination that I'm trying to access. Yeah, 410 number of packets. L. There you go. Go ahead again. Ping. And see, I can see the traffic is coming in 32.5 for 1.1, but again, one-sided connection. So I know that there's something on the policy. Yeah, there's something on the either the route or the policy. So now we know because we already discussed this in greater detail in the previous video. So I'll go a little quicker. Okay, now I know that this is happening, and I'll go ahead and do this get router info routing table details 1.1.1.1. I'll check that okay, I do have a route via the port 1, but it's still not able to forward. All right, so let me see what firewall policy is. So show firewall policy 1, and we do have this over here, and the address is configured with ITPC. Okay, ITPC fine, but what IP address? I do not know that. Okay, so let's do this. Show firewall address. I'll say ITPC tab. There you go. Ah, that's the problem. The traffic is getting originated from 32.5, but over here the ITPC is being used, which is 32.10. Hence, I won't be able to access it. That makes sense, right? My policy is not allowing me to do that. That makes sense. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I have to make this change, right? So what I'll do is the first thing which I'll do is let me show you one thing quick. Get uh, it's not showing me the way I want it to. Let me see. User PC2. Okay, not showing me up. Okay, so there's one more way of doing this. You do a show firewall address and you say user PC2. Okay, so now I know that okay, if I use a user PC2, I do have an IP address already configured with this. Okay, there's one more way of doing this. So you do this show firewall address. Okay, if I do this, it will show up all the address object which is created, right? So I can do this with the grep command also, grep, and say 172.16.32.5. Okay, and there you go. It does show me, but I don't know why is it coming up like this. I still know that the FortiOS 7.2 is actually giving me the right results. Hold on. So if I do a user PC like this, let's see. Okay, I did user PC2. Yeah, doesn't really work well with the show command. So get firewall trace. Okay, anyways, so I wanted to let me show you. So the best way of handling this is show firewall address, and you do a user PC2. Okay, I know that this IP address is picking you. So I'll go ahead and config firewall policy, edit one, set source address, and I say user PC2. Do a show command once more, end, and that's it, done. Let me try this again. Okay, and it's supposed to come work. Let's see. Show firewall policy, and we do have user PC2. Should work. Hold on, let's see. Just try this once more. It's timing out. Okay, so great. Good learning. Let's do this. Pango sniffer packet. Any. Again, let's host for 1.1.1. 410. Yeah. Okay. Let's try this again. Traffic coming in for 32.5. I've configured for user PC2. User PC2 is 32.5, I believe. That's correct. Okay, so let's see where it has went wrong. Okay, so we know that the IP address is being configured correctly. We do know that the policy is also correctly configured, but still we are not able to understand that why the traffic is not getting forwarded, right? Now, if you look closely, the source interface is any and the destination interface is any. In most of the situation or the scenario, what happens is that whenever you are configuring your FortiGate firewall, you will always mention either port 1 or port 3 or whatever ports you have. You will mention those. Okay, any is a very specific criterias where it's being used. So I have to check why is it coming up with like this. Okay, again, this was being kept made to make sure that this happens at the last moment. Okay, all right, because if I start using all these information in the beginning, it will become so difficult. Okay, so I wanted to keep all those things easy, and then at the last thing which we'll be talking about all these things. Okay, anyways, so we have any, so I have to first figure out how is this firewall configured correctly. Is it configured correctly, or is it have what deployment we have on this particular firewall? So I'll do a get system status command. Okay, and we have information about, okay, it's 7.0, that's okay. We have a license which is valid. We have Fortigate North, operation mode is NAT, and we have domain, that's fine. Okay, so overall I do not feel anything which is that could create issues. So let's see. Okay, all right, show system settings. Okay, and if I do a show system settings, let's see. Oh, there you go. Oh, do you see this? The next generation firewall mode is policy based. By default, your next generation firewall mode is something else. Let me show you quickly. Hold on. So config system settings. Okay. If you do not know what is policy based next generation firewall mode, again, we can take this as another session. Again, whatever you need, just comment down below on the video. I'll make a session on that. Okay. So set NGFW mode, you do a question mark, and there you go. You have a policy based and you have a profile based. Now again, policy based is for a very specific situations where you have a server farm or a network farm or a DC or a DMZ. In those situations, I'll probably prefer policy based. But if in case it's more acting as a UTM, then probably I'll go with the profile based. Okay, so I'll make this as a profile based. Okay, see, changing to profile based mode will remove all the firewall policy, security policy in this feed on. Do you want to continue? Yes, of course. Okay, I do want to continue with that. Now it says nothing because it won't show you default settings or default configurations. Okay, so point is end. There you go. Now let me do this again. Show firewall policy. You see this? All gone because this is a system level change. So whenever you do a system level change, it is going to remove anything which was created for the previous system. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to create everything again now. Now that's good, right? Because now we are going to do everything very quickly. Okay, we have understood the whole concepts and everything in place. Now let's do this quickly. First, what we have to do is do I have the address objects in place or not? Show firewall addresses. Enter. Okay, I can see my user PC2 and ITPC is configured. Great. So do I have my routes in place or not? Show router static. I do have my gateway routing information as well. Okay, so just need to configure the files called policy config firewall policy, and I'll go quick on this. Okay, set. Now you can do one thing. Let's say for example you're not sure of what all things that you have to configure. You do a set and you do a question mark. What will happen is anything which has a star, you have to configure it. That is mandatory. If it does not have a star, that's optional then. Okay, sorry, I had to press it for a long time. Okay, so set and do a question mark. Hmm? Sorry, I have to say edit because I have to first get into one of the firewall policies, right? So one, because there's no policy, so I can use either 1, 5, 10, 100, whatever it is. I can use any. Let me show you just to be clear. So config firewall policy, okay, and see if I do a show, I do not have anything, so I can just use anything. Let's say 1000. No problem, I can do that. All right. Now you do this set and do a question mark. So it'll list out everything which you can do with the firewall policy, but whatever you have as a star sign, that's mandatory. You need to have that. Okay. Let's move on quickly. Set source interface. I know that port 3 is my LAN. Set destination interface. I know my port 1 is my LAN, sorry, WAN or ISP internet. Set source address. And I want to use my user PC, correct? So I'll use that. Set destination address. I'll probably use all because I do not know what internet access I'll be having or what domain I'll be using or this user PC will be using. Okay, so it's a destination address, then sorry, set service, and I want everything. Okay, for now, set service all. There you go. Set action. Do I need to accept this kind of a traffic or not? So yes, of course, accept. Set NAT enable. Okay, and let's do a show command. So let's quickly check. Did we used all? So we had used destination interface, yes, source interface. We missed out the schedule. You see this? Okay, let's use this quickly. Set schedule, and I'll say always. Always basically means it will be active 24/7. That's it. Done. End. Okay. So if this has been configured correctly, I would be able to, get this policy to work. Let's see. Now, I'll tell you one thing. There's one thing which is missing. Okay. Let so let me show you the result first, and let's see if you're able to figure it out. Okay. Let's do a ping. See, it is pinging now. Okay. Still one thing which is missing out. Now, what I'll do is, as you all know about me, okay, I never give 100% everything prepared food in front of you. I always make sure that there's something which is left out for you to think, do it on your own, and then figure out and then come to me. All right. So there's one thing which is left out, and I'm just keeping it like that. I want you to do this on your own in your own lab, and let me know in the comment section what was it which was missing. It's still working. I'm not saying no to that, but this is one thing which is also worth mentioning in the configuration that we have done till today. Okay, I want you to go ahead and comment down below on what is that thing. Okay, all right, so see what we have done till now. We use the DNS, we use the gateways as well. We were able to understand the show command, how it was used between and what's the difference between show and get, how to fetch the information of the routing, what is the difference between displaying the routing and fetching the routing information. Yeah, what is the difference, how to check your firewall policies from the command line, and how to check your address subjects, how to figure out what IP address is configured on your sorry, I think I muted myself. Hold on. So from the firewall, we were able to see the firewall, and from the addresses, we were able to see all the address objects and what IP address is being configured on the address objects. Yeah. From the ISP, we were able to ping the gateways. We were able to resolve the FQDNs also. So we know that the gateways and the DNS is working fine for me as well. And then we stumbled upon the operation mode, NGFW mode, right? So we made those changes just from the CLI. We were able to figure out was why was this problem, and run from that we were able to configure the entire forward policy, made those changes, and then we were able to make sure that the connectivity is in place. Okay, so now the next thing is that I want you to go and do this in your own lab. Okay, try to understand the whole thing which we have worked upon. Okay, if in case you have doubts, go ahead and mention those, but there's one thing as a challenge I've mentioned you. Go ahead and see which is left out. Okay, it's working, but there's one thing which is left out. I want you to figure that thing out and do comment down below. Okay, I'll be waiting and I'll be seeing your comments onto that. Till that time, see you soon, and I'll probably move come up with the next topic real soon next week. Good night. Bye bye.